Yo, pull up a chair, let the real talk begin. Faith on the table where the brothers lock in. Life gets heavy, but we stand our ground. Truth in the room when the circle comes round. No mask, no front, just real man here. Talking about faith through the doubt and the fear. From the grind of the week to the lessons we share. Welcome to the men's round table, pull up a chair. Men's round table series, step inside. Real men, real faith where the truths collide. Voices at the table where the stories get shared. Welcome to the men's round table. Pull up a chair.
Thanks for pulling up a chair this morning. I'm Mr. U, and this is the Men's Roundtable Series Interview Spotlight. I'm your humble host. The goal for this show, as always, is restoration. We have an all-male audience with some women speckled in there. And what we do is talk one-on-one with men who have dealt with or are dealing with the father wound, with healing, with restoration, how to be a man in today's times, fatherhood, a bevy of issues that we talk about on this show. But our guest today, Johnzelle Anderson, good to have you in, brother. How are you, man?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
The pleasure's mine. I'm doing great, man. For those guys that are watching and listening for the very first time, thanks for making us part of your week. We're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, of course. Let us know how you enjoy the show. If you have a question for Johnzelle or myself, drop it in the comment section where you're watching this show right now. Thanks again for being a part of this incredible journey that we're on right now. Let's get into some conversation right now. So, brother, good to have you here, number one. Give us a little background about where you're from, how you got from where you were to where you are right now. I mean, some key factors and such. Go ahead, brother.
Okay. So my name is Johnzelle Anderson. I am a licensed therapist. I've been a therapist for over a decade now. I grew up in Southwest Virginia in Roanoke. Let's see where I started and where I'm at now. So I am the product of a white lady from Michigan and a black man from Sierra Leone. I grew up mixed race in Virginia, so identity was something that was a little strange in that I was a black person raised in whiteness. And, you know, sprinkle in abuse, neglect, racism, bullying, all that jazz, and it makes for a tumultuous time of developing identity. But a lot of my 20s was a period of unlearning. The miseducation that I kind of went through in those formative years. And that was also where I started to develop into, you know, a therapist, a storyteller. You know, my 20s was also when I, you know, became a father and started my business and stuff like that. So through unlearning and working through the healing, which is ongoing, is how I got to where I'm at today. So.
It's a powerful story, man. I want to definitely dig into it a little bit more. I realize that in all the conversations that we have throughout all of our shows, it feels like the people who are doing specific kind of work, it was birthed out of a situation, it was birthed out of a hurt or a void. Right now, where you are, brother, because I know that a lot of men are watching and listening, and they are literally and figuratively working through things that they've been dealing with in the past wounds, past hurts and neglects, like you said, abuse, things like that. As a therapist, how do you avoid bringing your own issues into situations, especially when they're similar to what you're going? What's kind of a fail-safe for you, kind of a you know, a way to guard yourself from, you know, bringing your stuff or your baggage into the situation that you kind of help somebody else with?
Yeah, well, there is, of course, ethics in being a therapist in that you don't want to project your stuff onto somebody else. But in my approach to being a therapist, like you see on the screen, it says therapist, storyteller, and I put like a line in between. They transcend, they, you know, they're one and the same, because what is coming to therapy if not sharing your story, right? And so a way that, especially working with Black men in particular, we often can heal by resonating with someone else's story. So because I have been through a lot of things that the men that come to therapy with me have also experienced. It's not so much of like pretending that I'm this blank slate who hasn't been through anything. A way that one of my superpowers in being a therapist is that I'm a real human being first. I don't look at myself as like being above somebody else. So my story is one of the ways that I build rapport with my clients. So of course, I'm not going to sit there and spend someone's session talking about myself. But if someone shares something, one of the ways to like bridge that gap between to show that we're equal, clients may assume, oh, well, you know, you probably never have to deal with this or something like that. And then to be able to share a story, not to one up or play the trauma Olympics, but to show them that I'm a human too. I'll share a part of my story to build that connection, to show like I do have some lived experiences that influence this. I tell my clients all the time, a lot of what I know and do as a therapist was not taught to me in a grad school. It was through real world experience, either working with clients or having lived it myself. I joke that I had about 22 years of mental health experience before I ever set foot in grad school. So, so I wouldn't say that I like completely shut off my own story and turn into a machine to be a therapist, but I also know boundaries of not making it about myself. If I'm going to share something about myself, it's to propel the client forward. I always link it back to what it is that they're going through. So,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. You mentioned something. It's producing a couple of questions for me that I didn't plan to ask you, but that's what makes the show so much fun. When you're talking about being in the geographical area where you are, and you definitely reference Black men, so I'm assuming that that's a big part of your focus in the work that you're doing. What are you seeing that's a common issue, without, of course, staying in the realm of confidentiality? What do you think is a common issue that you're seeing amongst men in your area that you're finding yourself dealing with, that they're dealing with? If you can share that a little bit, please do.
Yeah. I mean, the cool thing that I've noticed, really, especially since the era of COVID, like 2020, is because I opened my practice in 2019. Okay. Then COVID hit, and then we had that summer of 2020 that was crazy.
Yeah.
Black men are coming to therapy now more than ever, which is cool, because prior to that, I had my clientele wasn't as many Black people. Now I would say it is primarily that. So the good thing is that, Black men are embracing therapy more, and demographically, we're like kind of the last to embrace it. So that's a good thing. As far as like the challenges that Black men are going through, things like identity, anxiety, dealing with just the matters of life, whether it be the economy, employment, reckoning with maybe abuse or neglect or something that they've dealt with, relationships, parenting, racism, like a lot of the similar things that I've experienced as a human being, right? And the cool thing about being a therapist is that even though there are trends and things that are similar, every hour I get to see something different. So there's similarities and there's like themes, but also every individual that I get to talk to. So I never get bored, because every individual has a unique perspective in how things impact them. So that's a handful of things that folks are dealing with. I think relationships and identity and, the environments around us are definitely the most prominent right now.
Okay, that's interesting to know. You referenced some volatility in your upbringing.
Mm.
Hope you're okay with kind of getting into it. You mentioned
Yep.
childhood
I'm quite
abuse.
literally an open book. So when people are like, "Oh, I'm an open book," I'm like, I'm literally an
Yeah,
open book. So whatever you want to ask me, I got you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for being so transparent. I appreciate it, man. So, in regards to childhood abuse and neglect, those are the kind of things that a lot of men that I talk to in groups and in coaching spaces, and even in our roundtable on Thursday nights, we these things come out. And I love for you, without divulging too much what you share in your book. Spoiler alert. I got to say that first. I love for you to kind of share about what you actually were seeing. I know your father and mother had ways they may have contributed to some of what you're talking about, but what happened and how is it impacting you today, if it is?
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier I was the product of, a West African and a white person, right? So mixed race black, black raised in whiteness, but the world will try to tell you who you are if you don't know who you are. And I think, as parents, we're the first influence on children. So my parents didn't do that essential role of being like, this is who you are, you exist, and here let me give you the tools to walk in that, right? Because the father wasn't around, so the person that contributed to making me black wasn't there to. I mean, he was literally in the city, but he wasn't that involved, right? And then I'm dealing with the concept of, and people think this is wild when I say it, but my first racists were my white caregivers, right? So the perspectives and the venom towards my black father being spoken about by these white people, but I look exactly like him and I'm black. So if you say all these things about black people, then what does that mean about me? And it's confusing. But then add in the various types of abuse, physical, emotional, social, sexual, neglect, poverty, those sorts of things. It can mess you up, and the the development of my identity could have been like well, I'm going to turn into the villain because this is what happened to me, or it could have been survival. And I'm thankful that my that internal voice or a sense of hope was more of like, you can survive this, you can overcome this, and that. Yeah, remind me real quick again what the question was, because I kind of got in the pocket.
It's okay.
There. So
no,
yeah,
you're doing fine. I kind of want to just understand what you experienced and how you're dealing with it today, because I understand you're talking about generational pain, man. So I know that you can't just, you can try to whitewash it and cover over it like it's not happening, but it still has an impact. Ask me how I know this. So you're answering it right now. You're telling me what happened and how it's impacting you now. So go ahead. You're doing great.
Yeah. So thank you. So the way I structure the book is, and my book is called Mixtape and Memoir for those who are listening. But I put it in 4 sections. I have homeroom, miseducation, unlearning, and graduation. And the book is based around a playlist, and I love the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. So that's kind of a nod to the miseducation. But think of what I just kind of gave an overview of as kind of that, the homeroom and the miseducation. You have these characters, these imperfect human beings who, and then I'm here, right? And so these things happen. And obviously the unlearning is kind of what I described in my 20s of like, shedding the things that didn't serve me, kind of coming into my own, figuring out who am I going to be despite what I've been through, and then kind of walking in that freedom and that, what all of that kind of comes towards the end. And it's not to say that this book ends in happily ever after. I'm only 33. So, Not to say like, oh, because who likes a book that's like, oh, and then he lived happily ever after? How do I know? Right.
Yeah.
But you know, the thing that I'm thankful for is that these things, like the bad things, don't define who I am. I had this belief that bad things happen, and I don't like when people say everything happens for a reason, because then that gives credit to the people who harm you as like, oh, well, this made you better or something. I don't like that. But because bad things happen, I will um, I will take what is left behind from the bad things that happen, and I will find something useful from it. And I also don't stay in the bad things that happen. It's not to be revisionist history or denial, because you have to face that stuff. And that's a lot of what I do as a therapist. Like, men have to come in and they have to face the bad things that have happened to heal. Pretending it didn't happen or covering it up doesn't heal you. But I can take things from what I've experienced it, and it, whether it's something like supporting someone who's going through that situation now, or telling a story, and making something useful out of what is left behind. So it's kind of like what I said, that transcendence between therapist and storyteller. These stories that people give me, the stories that I tell, the stories I've experienced, we're all a series of stories. It's almost like I have this like dance that's happening of, there's good, there's bad, there's lived experiences, there's things that I've shed, there's all of this is like a mosaic of things that are going on. But in the end, I have this practice where I am able to decompress and to let go of the things that aren't serving me, and find ways to hopefully make a better impact and to live a more peaceful and joyful life for me, and help other people on that journey, versus staying down in the bad things. And my story isn't just doom and gloom. Like, I joke that my alter ego is a comedian, a DJ, a part-time assassin, and a librarian. So you're going to get elements of, obviously, music. It's based around a playlist. It's called Mixtape. But you're going to get my humor. You're going to get the stories, the books, the things that kind of anchor me. So yeah, it's not just trauma beating you over the head. It's like,
Right.
you're going to have like lighthearted, cringy, funny, heavy. And I try to take care of the reader so that it's an enjoyable experience. So some have described it like literary whiplash. It's like, oh, it's kind of like, oh, we're having a good time. Oh, that was funny. And then it's like, boom, whoa, where did that come from? Like, and then, you have the music and the things to kind of ease you through it. So it's not a light book, but it's not constant, beating you over the head either. So
it's real life and thoughtful perspective, man. So I definitely appreciate that, man. For those you guys that are listening and not watching us, we got Johnzelle's website up on the screen right now, www.johnzelle.co. Johnzelle.co. It's on the screen for those that are watching, but for listening, hear my voice on that one, Johnzelle, ZELLE.co. You can find his work and you can reach out to him and share your thoughts. I would imagine you can send questions to him as well, hopefully. You mentioned your the influence of your grandmother. With all the things that you went through, I'd love to hear briefly how your grandmother was instrumental in who you become today.
Yeah. So my grandmother, in the book, she didn't want me to use her real name. So in the book, her name is Miranda. And she is my mother's mom, so my maternal grandmother. And while I was going through a lot of the things in my childhood, she sometimes seemed to be the only person that loved me. So like, my mom was volatile. My brother was abusive and angry. The the people that my mom dated were kind of doing their own thing. And my experience as a child was very much like, and I was let known, like, you were a mistake, you were not wanted, right? And so, and treated as such, kind of like, stay, you know, be out of sight, out of mind, children are meant
Yeah.
to be seen and not heard, that kind of thing. So my grandmother showed me that I was special to her, that she loved me, that, you know, it was almost like, that kind of nurturing and softness that, a kid would hope to have from like a mother figure. I was able to get that from my grandmother. And I think a lot of kids who especially grew up with like single parents, like, oftentimes the grandmothers like fill in the gap.
Absolutely.
So that, I think that was a big part of like that hope that I said I had from a young age, not to just sit down in the bad things, but to feel, like there was something more for me. Which, because it's interesting, like I had a, you know, a mixed race brother who grew up in the same house as me, and we went very different paths. Like, we grew up in the same environment, but I was like more hopeful and like wanting to have a better future, and he kind of went in the direction of, you know, like falling into the circumstances that were given, right? So I think that having somebody that cares about you or takes time to spend time with you can really, um, be a big shift for you. Like, if someone does care about you, or you think that things can get better, then you don't give up. So, but like I said, my story is kind of dynamic in that, like, you think it's going one way and then it'll switch up on you. So grandma at one point in the story becomes the op, like she has her own wounds, and, you know, it becomes the person inflicting wounds. So, for a good period of time, it gave me hope. And then as I started to do the unlearning, it was like, oh, okay, I have to distance myself because she's a human too, right? And so, but that's our story. That's our lives. Like, no one is perfect all the time. So, but yeah, I would still say that even as an adult who I've had to, like, you know, put boundaries with some of these problematic people, um, my maternal grandmother is probably still like my closest family member from my family of origin. So
that's awesome, man. We got time for a couple more questions. I want to try to spend a little time talking about the impact of the book. The name of the book, you guys that are watching, listening, is Mixtape, a Memoir, Johnzelle Anderson. You did something that I want to get you to talk about briefly with me. I had a situation, some generational stuff as well, with a father who, I think, used the word disengaged.
mm-hmm.
And that's too soft to describe what mine was. But it was a situation where I essentially, most people who watch my show, who know my history, my background, watch any of our shows, you heard me tell the story. I chased him across the country, and he was he was not standing still. He was moving away as far away as possible from where I was in my hometown, New York City. So I chased him across the country to try to find validation. Where did singing voice come from? Where did this come from? Where did this ministry gift come from? I was trying to chase them to get answers for my life. You went on a life-changing trip to find roots that you I guess in the effort to connect, to understand, to comprehend some things. If you don't mind sharing briefly about that trip that you took and how life-changing it was, can you do that?
Yeah. So I've actually taken 3 trips to West Africa. So
Okay.
Yeah, the one that I talk about in the book is the first time I went to West Africa. I went to Ghana, and I mentioned earlier, my father is an immigrant from Freetown, Sierra Leone, West Africa. And I chose, when I went to the continent, I did it on my own terms, because I wasn't doing it from a place of, okay, I have this relationship with my father and I know where to go or where to connect. I was, you know, my whole experience of growing up was kind of like, figure it out on your own without a roadmap, right? So, but I felt drawn to West Africa because I knew that is kind of where it started. So
Okay.
in connecting with Ghana, it felt like I was being welcomed home, and being
Wow.
in sub-Saharan Africa. You know, like one of the things you'll see a lot is the word Akwaba, which means welcome, and one of the languages there. And it really did feel welcoming. It really felt like, you know, you step off the plane and that like dry heat hits you in the face, and it's just like, wow. And I really enjoyed that. And recently, talking about like, you know, life changing. I mean, in December, I took my daughter to West Africa with me, which we went to
Oh, wow.
I went to Sierra Leone for the first time. So we actually went to the place, Freetown, where my father immigrated from. And, you know, and it was after I got separated last year. So it was like the first time I took my daughter with me to West Africa. And so it was really special because, mind you, you know, it's like the first time I'm doing this with my child, bringing her to the, you know, my father never took me to West Africa, but I'm taking my child there. And it was her 6th birthday while we were in Freetown, Sierra Leone. So it's kind of like my child doesn't have to have that experience of not knowing where she comes from because I'm bringing her here early on, you know? So from, you know, that first trip where it's like, I don't know where my roots are, to that third time around is like, I'm showing my child where her roots are. So in a way of giving to my own child and showing her where her roots are, is somehow healing parts of me that weren't given that experience from my own parents. So yeah, West Africa is very special to me. I'm still processing and working through all that those experiences have brought me, for sure.
I know you mentioned that your book was not kind of like a hard stop yet. You're kind of in process. Is there any big takeaway, especially for the men that are watching and listening today, who may have fancied themselves as having some great childhoods and may not understand, or some that are in the same spot like you, or maybe even worse? Is there a takeaway that you got from the experience of going to West Africa? You said 3 times. I don't know which one was the one that was the defining moment or not, but which is there a takeaway that you have you can share that might encourage them, that you got from that experience, to kind of find your roots and find yourself in that space?
I'd say that the overall takeaway, whether it be from my travels to Africa, the things I've shared here, or even my book, is that we are wired for connection. We don't exist without each other, right? So if we're wired for connection, that means that when we don't have reciprocity in our connections, something's going to go wrong. You know, unreciprocated relationships will hurt us because they're not sustainable, right? And for me, going to West Africa, it was connection with something bigger than just me. It was culture, it was identity, it was history, it was legacy, it was, you know, even showing my own child something, right? And what I'll say is a takeaway that I kind of talk about in the book is there's this symbol in the Adinkra symbols in Ghana. It's called Sankofa, which means to go back and get it.
Okay.
So to go back and get something that was left behind. And all of us, I think, to answer your question, we all have something that is still worth exploring that we can go back and get. But it does require sometimes sacrifice or courage, bravery to do that. But oftentimes doing that work will also be the key to our healing. Hopefully that made sense.
Yeah. No, it definitely made sense, man. It just sounds like you're on a journey, man. That's what it sounds like. And I love hearing that, because even though as somebody who grew up especially back in New York City. There was a lot of things to do, but then there was a lot of things I needed to stay away from. I spent a lot of time in books and in front of TV sets a lot of times. And the words I hated to see on TV, especially for a show I love watching, those 3 words I hated seeing them with a passion: to be continued. I hated it. I had to wait for a whole week to find out what happened. I still hate those words to this day, but I know it's TV. It is what it is, but I just hate it. But we're in a place where we're in a continual process, man. We're growing, and it's to be continued. I'm talking to you right now. I may talk to you at the end of the month, a few months from now, and guess what? You got a different layer to the story. You learn something else about you. You've grown to a certain degree, man. So I just want to say thank you, man, for being here and sharing your story and being so transparent. It's clear that you're not in survival mode anymore, but you're growing, looking for answers, and you're working on bettering yourself, man. So that's powerful to me. I hope every man that's watching and listening can appreciate that. Do this for me, Johnzelle, if you don't mind, before we close out today. Do 2 things for me. 1, let folks know where they can find you and your work. And I'll put the website up on the screen. I'll bring it back up again in a moment for those that are watching. If you're listening, you can kind of shout it out for them. And then before we close out, just give some encouragement to the men that are watching today. I know they all from different places and they got different levels they're dealing with, but if you don't mind doing both for me right now, that'd be great. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'll start with the encouragement. One of the things, and this is not something that I say just because I'm a therapist, but I end every one of my therapy sessions with clients with the following statement. I tell my clients, be kind to yourself and I'll do the same. Self-kindness it sounds simple, it sounds pithy, but it's the simplest yet most challenging thing a person can do, because it's not just a one and done thing. You have to constantly, every minute, every hour, every day, choosing self-kindness, right? And that practice will hopefully lead you to peace, joy, and freedom. That's what I'm pursuing in life these days. So when I tell my clients, hey, be kind to yourself and I'll do the same, it's also a reminder to me, because like I told you, I've been through some things, right? And still going through things, right? So when I tell them, hey, you be kind to yourself and I'll do the same, I will never tell someone to do something that I won't do myself. So then it's my own reminder, hey, Johnzelle, be nice to you as well. So that's my encouragement. As far as where you can find me, Mixtape and Memoir is available at johnzelle.co. It's on the screen there. On my website, you will see it's available in hardcover, paperback, ebook. It's also available as an audiobook narrated by me. So all of those links are available, like your Amazon, your Barnes & Noble, bookshop.org, Audible, all of that. That's available at johnzelle.co. But if you want to just look it up at your favorite online bookstore, Mixtape and Memoir, Johnzelle Anderson, you should be able to find it. It's widely distributed. Thanks in advance for your support. Also, if you want to connect with me, I am on Instagram at Johnzelle_. So the same spelling is JOHNZ like zebra, ELLE_. So you can, a lot of what I do on there, I read like 100 books a year or more. So I review the books that I read. You'll see cute pictures of what I'm reading to my daughter, and little things about like what I'm writing and working on. So that's a good way to stay in touch with me and connect with me there. So johnzelle.co for the book, and at Johnzelle_ on Instagram is where you can keep up with me.
Man, powerful story, brother. Just spoiler alert, you're going to be on some of our other 4 shows. So I'm excited about continuing the conversation and bringing additional layers, because I know there's more there. If you guys watching, listening, this is the Men's Roundtable Series Interview Spotlight. Talking about trauma, talking about identity, talking about the whole man. At the end of the day, restoration is always the goal. Johnzelle, thanks for being here, brother.
Thank you for having me.
You guys share your story. God bless you, your family. This has been a privilege, man. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching the Men's Roundtable Series Interview Spotlight. That's Johnzelle, author extraordinaire and father extraordinaire. I'm Mr. U. Have a fantastic day.
Men's Roundtable Series, step inside. Real men, real faith, where the truths collide. Voices at the table where the stories get shared. Welcome to the Men's Roundtable, pull up a chair.